conversation for the night. Today, we are talking about youth for change. And in just a few minutes, I'll be highlighting two gentlemen who are leading a pack of young people who are doing something really inspiring for those who come from vulnerable families in slums. And we will be talking about that in a bit. But at this particular juncture, we are having this conversation at a time when young people form the biggest chunk of those who have been affected by HIV and AIDS. Cases of teenage pregnancy go high each and every day. We've also had cases of crime rates increasing in our country, and most of the perpetrators are young people. And we've asked ourselves, even over time, why is it that young people often are used for the wrong reasons in the society? So tonight we want to talk about change. We want to talk about the youth as change agents and how the youth can be part of the solutions to the problems that are ailing them in the society. And joining me in studio tonight to have this very important conversation, I'm having two gentlemen. And I'll start from the gentleman who is sitting at the center there. His name is Ruben Apuya Mutua. Ruben is the chairperson of an organization known as TIPA. We'll be delving into it in just a bit. And of course, also alongside him is Frederick Onyango Otieno. He's the communications officer for that organization, TIPA. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for creating time for us. And of course, I just want to understand, first of all, when we talk about TEPA, that's what you tell me it's called, TEPA, an initiative that is very noble from where I sit, reaching out to the young people, as young people, you know, sending out dignity kits for the young people in slums. Just tell me a little bit about what birthed this story of TEPA.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. And TEPA in full is Teenage Pregnancy Awareness. We call it TEPA. And we started this project in January, but we launched it last Friday. And the reason why I came up with this project is because, having been born and raised in Kibera, I've seen the challenges my fellow students are going through. And also when COVID struck in this country, we had that over 2,000 students were pregnant in the slum. So I sat down, thought of the issue, and I went to the ground and asked their problem, and they told me the real problem is themselves, the students themselves. In as much as sometimes we blame border people for impregnating these girls, but it is the relationship, boy-girl relationship in the same schools. And I thought that I would address this issue better when I do interact with both girls and boys, because in some organizations that come in, they only focus on girls alone and they leave boys. And you remember, and you all know, that boys are the perpetrators of these pregnancy issues. And so having that...
Not necessarily, before you continue, there's what experts have called the Romeo and Juliet sort of arrangement. So it could be willing, should I say willing seller, willing buyer, yeah. But of course, not necessarily that all the time the boy is the perpetrator, but in most cases, that is the unfortunate situation. So I would agree with you on that.
Yeah, true. And so also, number two, they also told me that some of them, you see, they're in the slums. Most of their parents are poor. So it is called period poverty. And we want to end this issue of period poverty. So some of the girls, they are unable to purchase pads. So when they come to one of us, for example, Freddie, and they request for money to buy pads, Fred will give them in the first place. But when they come back, Fred will request for some favors from them. And what comes in, they'll get pregnant. So with us, I don't mean that you will do that. He doesn't do, I've used that as an example.
Yeah,
this is an example.
But Freddie, thank you so much also for creating time for us tonight. So as a member of TEPA, you know, he approached a group of you guys and asked you to join this noble initiative. Yes. What inspired you, and what was your initial thinking when you heard about this idea and what it is going to do for young people?
I thank you so much. And so it is born from let's say from the previous interactions I've had with the school. So we've got a chance to visit various communities all through Kenya, and so I saw how they were handling the situation. Like there was an instance where they were creating sanitary pads from the cloths, something of that sort, in the Maasai community. And so I thought that this is going to be a very nice chance to ensure that they get this all through. Yeah, so I also pitched it to my friends. and they said it's a nice idea, and so we went ahead, formed a team, and along the way there were challenges, but here it is on Friday. We made sure that we've delivered the much we could.
All right. So you began this initiative in January. So all along there has been 1 or 2, 3 things you've been doing underground. Then the official launch was on Friday.
Yes.
This particular week. Yes. So tell us about that journey. And when you talk about reaching out to the young people, what exactly do you do to them?
So in as much as we started this project in January, launching it came later. So we've been visiting these schools, giving talks without some donations. But along the way from May, we decided to give ourselves a break and collect some funds, donations from well-wishers. So we've been using M-Changa to collect some funds from people. And so we decided to buy some pads and books and distribute them to the girls. Also, for men, as we've asked, also for other people who are supposed to initiate change. It doesn't matter whether you have it in plenty or not. Whatever you have, you see, you can have an idea in the mind, but it's just an idea. But when you put it in practice, it becomes a very big thing that can help a society at large. So it doesn't matter. I'm not employed, he's not employed, we are all students. And we deny ourselves that little that we have, and we set it aside to help the community. So it is not a very simple journey. It requires sacrifice.
So you give them books, you give them sanitary towels.
Yes.
It's just sort of, you know, the essential items that will be contained in a dignity pack, yeah?
Yes.
I mean, as young people, and he has just said, you guys are not employed, you guys are just still in school and you have your future ahead of you. Many would be really busy chasing that future as opposed to, you know, dealing with such issues.
Yeah.
I mean, what inspired you as a young person, and what would you say or tell a young person out there who doesn't feel like they're in a position to actually start reaching out and be part of charity?
Also, based on what you have shown on other TVs or other organizations, is that they are a massive group that have all the funding from maybe various governments. But so I took this as a challenge, since I said, I'll deny myself this little that I have for now. Make sure that I make the effort, the impact that I can within the community. And from there, I'll say that at least I did something, rather than spending that money on other things that won't bring change to the community. And so along the way, we started pushing each other, and like, see, every month you need to give a little bit so that you can see this grow, because we want it to grow. And at the same time, we want to say that at least we made a move, rather than just staying there and complaining that we're waiting for the top authorities to reach out to us. Yeah.
The serikali tafadhali serikali
Exactly.
culture in this country.
Yeah.
Okay, so you know, Ruben, you say even in your background, it's not a very rosy upbringing. You come from a very vulnerable upbringing, and here you are, you're in university, there is your future ahead of you. You could be tempted to think about yourself and your future, and then you go about starting this idea. What is it that, why? What's the why in this equation?
Now, let me reflect back in my life. Someone somewhere asked me during my birthday in July, what can we offer you that can make you happy? I kept on telling them, just make someone happy, I'll be happy. So I don't have that ability, like, I don't know, that my mind doesn't have that capability of getting gifts for me to be happy. I believe in impacting someone in the society for me to be happy. And so the reason why I started a TEPA is because I wanted someone in the society to change. Because we've realized that most of the people in Kibera, they understand, because they've been brought up in a vulnerable society, they have no future at all. But when they see me, they look at me, I tell them I come from Kibera, I live in Lindi. They understand, by the way, you come from Lindi. And majority of them don't believe. But some of them, when they see me moving around on weekends and they believe that I come from Kibera, they always tell me that they get encouraged and they want to further their studies. So the why here is the impact I want to create in the society. We want to have a society of young men, young women who are focused on their studies and help them reduce these teenage pregnancies.
If you look at the environment where your organization operates, what are some of the biggest challenges? You know, because what we see are big numbers of teenage pregnancy, big numbers of crime, the youth being involved in such crime, you know, situations. I mean, what is it about such a setup that would make a young person vulnerable to such vices?
Number one is, let me start from the girl side, is period poverty. As I've said, I've mentioned earlier, you come to me, I'll help you today, tomorrow I need a favor from you. And that favor is not monetary.
It's in kind.
Yes, it is in kind, of course. For men, also for these boys, of which we give mentorship programs to them, is what we call drug addiction, mihadarati. So these boys in Kibera, some of them will sneak out of school to go and take bank, alcohol, and what have you. So this is the biggest challenge that we're addressing in the community. So period poverty, alongside poverty and drug abuse, is the biggest challenge that we are trying to address in the society.
Yes. Where do you think there is a disconnect? Because let me cite the example of teenage pregnancy a while back. There was that blame game going on. It is the government, it is the parents who have failed, it is the church, it is the young people that have failed themselves. Where do you think this problem could be coming from?
Well, generally the problem is in the society, since let's say it is what I see from my neighbor doing, and so I say that since he's up there and he can do this, then I can do this. And so we cannot blame one specific person. I say we can just, and we cannot start blaming people. It's already there, so the best we can do is at least make sure that we've made amends with it and we brought the best out of ourselves. Yeah.
Ruben, young people like yourselves often complain at hawaskizwi, you know, the society doesn't understand us. I mean, do you think that could be an issue also that needs to be checked if we are to solve the problems that are ailing the young people in this generation?
The issue of being listened to is in the mind. So if you've already perceived that you are not listened to, whether you communicate and someone listens to it, they act to it, you will not perceive the change. We are being listened to, and that's why we have so many government projects coming up to help the young people. And I don't know what you mean by saying they're not listened to, yet we have other programs that are coming to help young people. If they were not being listened to, we could not be having such programs coming on board to help them.
All right. I like what Frederick has said. I mean, you cannot blame a single person in this, but it's a multi-sectorial issue. It involves all of us in the society, the government, parents, the church, and even the colleagues, the friends, the peers. Because, you know, if we are to go the direction of blaming one person, then we are not finding any solution. I want us to go back to what you guys do and just to understand how you identify the beneficiaries. How do you spot where to invest your charitable act, and where do you get your funding from? Because you are just students who are still pursuing their own careers. So how do you make this work?
So first of all, being brought in Kibera or being brought up in Kibera has given me a chance to recognize where the challenge is. And first of all, we visit schools. So from the schools, we'll always ask the head teachers or the principals where the challenge is in the school. Where is the issue of pads, books, like what happens in the school that keeps this child away from school, or how many cases have you had of teenage pregnancies, and what is the cause? So that's how we identify our niche for us to help these people. With our funding, we rely on ourselves. We don't have donors, but we're still looking for donors. So, like right now, we are looking for another, we need another, because we do projects, donations every month. On 15th of next month, we need to give donations to 2 schools. So we've started our initiatives. So we've said everyone should give 600 shillings by the end of this month. So it means being around 10 of us, we have 6,000. But our target is around 100,000. So you see, when we reach out to friends, those who are willing to help, but there's this perspective from the human mind that when they give, they think that we are benefiting by ourselves. But it is the society that is benefiting.
The society is benefiting. I want you to pick from that particular point, you know.
Yes.
Tell me, when one person volunteers to purchase or help you purchase that dignity pack for a single girl in that slum,
yes,
what does that act translate to? Give us the bigger picture. How does it, you know?
It starts with one person giving out, and then they will probably encourage their friends to say like, hi, I gave out this and I've seen what they've done, and so I think you should also come in and join. And so maybe as a group they'll come, and then they might go back to, if they're in our age group, to their parents and pitch like, see, my friends are doing such a thing and they would want some help, and so would you mind helping them? And so slowly by slowly, bit by bit, I mean, we've got everyone covered now. Yeah, I think that's how, in the larger perspective, the whole society has been covered. Yes.
Are there, instances of challenges you've experienced? It's been a few months you've been doing this. People, asking you why you're doing this. You're a young person. I mean, you should be busy doing something else. Have you had, hiccups along the way, and how are you dealing with them?
First of all, the biggest challenge is someone asking me, you are a man. So how are you dealing with the teenage pregnancy issues, and you are a man?
Yes.
This issue should be left for women. But I realized we are also involved, because other organizations are focusing on women. They are leaving men, as I've said earlier. But as a young man, I know where the challenge is. It is on from both sides, the girl child and the boy child. So the biggest challenge is when the schools, most of the schools we visit, they're telling me, because we are talking about teenage pregnancy issues, just talk to girls. But we have to insist and negotiate and tell them, now listen to us. We are talking to both.
Why is that important for you?
It's important because I've already mentioned earlier, in as much as it is a give and receive act, like of getting pregnant, we also need to address the main issue, because they're also, in some aspect, the perpetrators of this cause, also women. So we need to teach them. And in as much as we're teaching about teenage pregnancies, we also teach, mentor them on other effects. If you are not getting pregnant, you will get STDs. So we teach them on all these avenues so that they get informed. But you see, most of the schools, they don't want that. They want to neglect girls on the other side, boys on the other side, which makes we boys or men feel left aside, which is not a good idea. The other challenge is also of funding. That's the biggest challenge we are facing right now. But I know in future we'll get someone who can help us to help the community, because I know someone is watching somewhere. They know what challenges these kids are going through, and they're really willing to help, but they have not gotten the avenue to help. But when you raise them, now they get the avenues to help. Are you a
registered organization?
We are a registered organization and a CBO, that is community-based organization.
All right. What's the feedback like, as we're just about to wrap up? What is the response and the reach? What is the impact of what you guys are doing? Are you receiving feedback about it?
Yeah, in the beginning it was minimal, but as time goes by, I think we are growing, because since we managed to do several school visits before we actually give out the first inauguration, they could see our presence, and so they knew, so you're those guys who came in the previous school. Yeah, so they've known us for a time. Yeah. Okay. So I think it's positive.
All right, gentlemen, all the best in all you're doing. We really commend and encourage you, to keep being the youth for change that you are. We've run out of time for this conversation, so I'll give you 1 minute each for your parting shot. Any final word you'd like to tell the community, the youth who are watching tonight? Let me start with Frederick, and then I'll end with the chairperson.
Yeah, so for me is this, it doesn't take much to make a move, or to make a change within the society, but just start small. The little you give, you'll feel that you can even make more, and so you choose to make even bigger steps along time. It won't happen immediately, but over time you'll see the progress you've made. Yeah, that's much I can say.
Okay. Yeah. If young people want to connect with you guys,
so for the organization, it's a Teenage Pregnancy Awareness 2021 for the Instagram, and also Teenage Pregnancy Awareness on Facebook.
On Facebook, all right. Yeah. Your final words, Ruben?
My final word will be, in every society there is a challenge, and it takes a young person to spot the challenge. Because you see, these old men have finished their part. They had their challenges, they addressed it. If we wait for these old men to address our challenges, we shall not benefit. We need to look, whether you live in an estate, there's a challenge people are facing, and you can come up with an idea or ideas to help curb the challenges people are facing. It doesn't matter, as Frederick has said, whether you have it or you have plenty of money or not. It starts from the mind. When you put it in practice, then it becomes favorable to the entire community.
All right, thank you so much. Ruben Apuya Mutua, the chairperson at TEPA, and of course, Frederick Onyango Otieno, the communications officer for TEPA, an organization that really, inspires young people and helps supply dignity kits to the vulnerable in the society, and also passing information on in terms of teenage pregnancy and some of the vices that are affecting young people in the society. Keep doing what you guys are doing. We commend you and wish you all the best. Thank you so much for watching up to this particular point. You're going to be taking a very short break. We are coming back with much more.